Good morning. Welcome to the utter chaos in a controlled fashion. That is the morning meeting. Sean, as you can see, is at the White House. Going to flip his camera around and show you. It's a festival of 100 days here. Lots going on at the White House. There's a White House briefing taking place right now at this unorthodox hour. And there's Sean's finger. And there's the White House lawn. Sean is right in the thick of things. It's called Pebble Beach, where
You want to
correspondents are
walk
doing
into the briefing?
correspondents are doing. Yeah, go in. We'll get a question in. A lot going on. The president's got a bunch of media planned. This briefing is focused on immigration, and there's signs. Go ahead and put up 106B. There's signs on the White House North Lawn of people who the White House says have been deported, and they kind of like a crazy thing. They're in the shots of all the TV correspondents. So if you're doing a TV shot, maybe your camera person can blur those out. But they set them up there for a purpose. They make
Mark,
it.
do you want me to
focus.
show you what it looks like real quick?
Yeah, walk in. Let's.
So this no. So these are
yeah.
the things that you just referenced. Here's all the cameras.
Yeah. You can take Sean live there. There you go. We don't need the tape. Anyway, Caroline Levitt posted that video showing those signs. And again, kind of an intriguing thing if you're doing a stand up.
You can see it right now.
Yeah.
By the way, this only happens on the morning.
Fox and friends coming by. Hey, Brian.
Yeah. Well, Brian, where are you going, Brian?
Brian, where are you going? Okay. All right. Brian, you'll meet our new correspondent.
Yeah, you want to walk into the briefing?
All right. Hey, hold on. I just can't leave. Give me a second.
Anyway, we have a lot to do, but Sean is there, and again, the president and his team have a bunch of stuff planned to flood the zone this week to try to dominate. And they want to start the first 100 days discussion with what has been, in the view of many, their greatest accomplishment. Although others quibble with how they've done it, there's no doubt that they've made extraordinary progress in not just shutting down the border, but deterring folks from coming in all sorts of ways, including some deportations. So let me run through some stuff while Sean walks. The president today is having lunch with the vice president. He is meeting with the Speaker of the House at 2:00. That's a meeting about both politics and policy, because you don't need to put it up, Paul. We'll just watch Sean. Take Sean full, actually. And then he's meeting with the Eagles at 4:00, signing executive orders. 5:00. That's currently closed press, but I bet it opens up. And again, as you're about to see, Caroline is briefing. Sean is in the room, and there you see Sean's live coverage of the briefing. I hope I'm not disturbing it by talking. Sean, are you there you go. All right. So Sean, there's the briefing. Vice President and the President are having lunch today at noon 12:30. Canada's having their elections. Polls close at 10 tonight. The left will probably win, but it's not a sure thing. If the conservatives win, that'll be a big deal. Scott Bessent was on CNBC this morning, didn't really make any news, but we'll maybe play you some of that. House and Senate are back in session, leadership meetings today, some other stuff's going on. Lots going on with reconciliation, and that'll be, of course, a major topic on the Hill today and all week, really all month of May. We expect to get the X date from the Treasury Department this week, which is when the debt ceiling will be breached. We'll get some GDP figures on Wednesday. The president's $9.3 billion recession request is supposed to go to Capitol Hill this week. And the Treasury Secretary, in addition to dealing with all this stuff related to tariffs, is also going to have more meetings of the so-called Big Six, the leadership and the Ways and Means and budget chairs, to try to continue to hash out what they're going to do about the reconciliation bill. Supreme Court's hearing arguments this week, including today on the threshold for disability discrimination lawsuits. All right. Few things I want to tell you about regarding housekeeping. Announced last night, if you get my Substack, with WIC, our friends at WIC, we're going to be doing a poll this week. We call it the People's Poll. You can submit a question. People talk all the time about they don't understand how polls work and the pollsters aren't asking the right questions. Sean, Dan, and I will be submitting questions to the People's Poll, but you can too. So if you're part of the two-way community and you want to submit a question with multiple choice answers. So what's the best flavor of pie? Apple, berry, or cherry? Send an email to tpp@twoway.tv, the People's Poll, tpp@twoway.tv. Submit the question today. We're going to have poll results back Thursday. It's a national poll, 1,000 people sample, and we want to make this as inclusive as possible. So if you want to be involved in the People's Poll, submit a question, send us an email by 11 a.m. this morning. So you have a couple hours to tpp@twoway.tv. If you'd like to be a sponsor of this program or any program on Two-Way, we're accepting people's interest now. Our sponsorships are a little bit different. They're sponsorships like no other, custom Two-Ways and access to this great community. Send us an email at sponsors@twoway.tv, sponsors@twoway.tv. And then finally, our Series A round is closing soon, but we've had some people asking, can people invest? Yes, you can. Send an email to invest@twoway.tv. Give us a range of how much you're interested in investing, a range based on just your general sense, and we'll get you the information you need. Again, if you want to invest in Two-Way, invest@twoway.tv. All right, polling over the weekend, not good for the president by any conventional measure. Newt Gingrich and a few other supporters of the president's have said, ignore the polls, they're not real. But I know there's a lot of Republican polls that match it. Job approval down, job approval on the economy down, job approval on immigration down. These are not good numbers by any measure. He's not up for re-election, and there's no midterms for over a year, but there is concern in Republican circles about what is going on with the president's poll numbers. All court press about the first 100 days. So the president did an interview with Time Magazine last week, with the Atlantic magazine that's out now. And tomorrow, he's going to have an interview with Terry Moran of ABC News. There's the Atlantic piece. Terry Moran of ABC News, a big Oval Office interview. Sean, why is ABC having Terry Moran do the interview, and why did Terry Moran get the big interview with the president, do you think? Any idea?
Well, I think the president clearly lost a bet of some sort, because I don't know why. I mean, that to me, of all the people, Terry is probably the most biased of all the people, and that says something for ABC News. He's not exactly what I would call a player. So I find it odd that they went down to that level. I mean, he is not what you would consider a big level reporter or personality. So I kind of find it insulting for the White House, to be honest with you. They did that big interview during my first term with George Stephanopoulos, obviously their lead anchor, but to not send even David Muir or somebody, to send it down to like below Jonathan Karl's level.
Yeah. You know, I was watching, the first I learned of the interview, I was watching This Week, and I saw a promo for the interview. The promo did not name Terry Moran. It didn't say who was doing the interview. And I thought, well, that's weird. Because normally when you promote an interview, you know, if you're a network, you say, you know, Diane Sawyer's exclusive interview with the president. It literally just said no one, just said ABC has an interview. So there's something weird going on here.
That exactly. I mean, there's something like they know that most people don't know who the guy is. I think he does a lot of their streaming now. But anyway, I thought it was an odd choice, and I also think it was odd for the White House to accept it, because it's not like he's someone who is noted to have a relationship with the president or something.
He's as you said, he's as big a resistance mainstream reporter as, I mean, he's not quite the level. What's the name of the guy who left CNN?
Jim Acosta?
Acosta. He's not quite Acosta level, but he's pretty close.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
close.
why, but I also think that, like, you know, when the White House looks at who they're doing stuff with, and this is not particular to this White House, you know, you always don't want to punch down. And so the idea that you're doing this with him says a lot about ABC as much as it does about the White House.
Yeah.
So unless they asked for him, because after the Stephanopoulos stuff, you take a weak link. You think Trump's going to, I mean, I'm sure he'll feel like he can dominate him.
Well, maybe, but here's the thing. Terry, who used to be my colleague for a long time, Terry's very smart. So it's sort of the worst combination, as far as I'm concerned, from the White House's point of view. I don't know why they'd accept Terry, or certainly ask for him. He's smart and hostile. Why,
but you think after the Stephanopoulos stuff that ABC is going to allow him to be hostile? I don't think so.
Oh, I do.
Terry's independent. Terry's independent. Terry's independent. I don't know. The whole thing. The whole thing baffles
60 minutes.
The whole thing baffles me. All right. As I said, full court press, the administration, they are emphasizing immigration today in a big way. The president's going to Michigan for a 100-day speech. There's no escaping, though, that what's driving, in the view of most analysts, the poll decline and the general feeling that the 100 days is not going super well is the trade policy, the tariff policy. Here is Scott Bessent this morning, following up on his appearance on ABC yesterday, 107, on Squawk Box, defending the tariff policy.
Last Tuesday, you had a meeting that JP Morgan hosted. This was this private investor summit, and your comments either leaked out or got out. And those comments, if you really look at the market, moved the market materially higher on the back of them, where you said, quote, there will be a de-escalation in the very near future. That was the quote. And so my question to you is, what confidence or assurance do you have, having made that statement, when it now appears, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, that when you did meet with the Chinese last week during the IMF meeting, you did not talk about tariffs yourself, and it sounds like you're not engaged or involved in these China tariff discussions yourself. Maybe the president is. I know he said that he is, but you said that you don't know about those conversations.
Well, Andrew, first of all, to clarify the meeting with J.P. Morgan, there was nothing that I said in that meeting, nothing that I had not already said in the mainstream media 72 hours before. So I was surprised when the market rallied. And if you were to look at what happened after the meeting, after I sat down for a press conference, markets sold off. So if you bought during the meeting, you actually lost. To get to
all right, you can dump out of this. He goes on. It was a long interview. I heard no news in it. Here's a tweet from someone in the financial world about Scott Bessent in general. Bessent single-handedly keeping markets afloat with 4 interviews a day, not saying anything that is particularly positive, but he has a Morgan Freeman voice / narration style, and it's just very calming to people. Dan, where are we as the week begins on tariffs, trade, markets, and the president's polling?
And the polling's bad, and it's not just the tariffs. It was going down prior to the tariffs. Tariff accelerated it, made it worse. But even Doge had turned negative in the last month, and frankly has gotten even worse. I think I keep going back to this. How does Trump declare victory on the tariffs? You're seeing more and more. I said this earlier last week. I think they're going to announce frameworks that are basically aspirational agreements with no real details. He will then pull the tariffs down, or he'll suspend them, right, to give them so it sounds a little better. And they'll spend the next year or so trying to work these deals out. But even what the administration put out earlier in the week of all the different subjects that they're going to go through, you don't do those in a few days. So, look, he's got a problem, but as you said, it won't really matter till next November.
Sean.
Got time.
Look, I think as long as he gets results, so if he can get a framework with some of these countries that talks about and addresses these high tariff rates, non-tariff barriers, et cetera, and then takes it down, that's a model going forward. That brings more people to the table. I think at the end of the day, most people are concerned about the actual result. It was funny, there was a Frank Luntz focus group that he put together, I think Thursday or Friday. I've got it in my show tonight, where he had 24 people on there, and he starts saying, God, this has got to be hitting your wallet, your 401k. And they were all like, yeah, but we're good with that. And I think this is where the media misses the strength of Trump's base. And this is why the polls, may be what they are, but I don't think have the impact that they normally would have on any other politician, because Trump knows that the base is giving him a very long leash to get things done. And I get that it's, might be an iterative process, but the fact of the matter is, after decades and decades of being taken advantage of, putting a framework or a roadmap forward is actually a positive sign.
If you've got peace, love, and understanding in your heart and can extend the presumption of grace to both Dan and Sean, and you're here on the two-way platform, a lot of ifs. If all those apply to you, please raise your hand if you'd like to get a question in today. And if you're watching on X or on YouTube, thank you for watching. Don't put smack in the chat, and enjoy following along at home. All right, border and immigration. There's this issue of minor children who are American citizens leaving the country with their mothers. There's the judge who was arrested in Wisconsin. I think it's pretty clear to me that the politics of this is something the White House welcomes. Dan, a lot of Democrats say the tide has turned, that there's so many due process violations, so many apparent ignoring of judicial orders, that in fact Democrats should relish discussing immigration. Do you agree with that point of view or not?
I'm going to split this up. When it comes to closing the southern border, it's still a mess for the party. It's Trump's strongest hand, and he should take credit for what he's accomplished. When it comes to immigration more broadly and dealing with the people here, it is not good for Democrats, but it's not good for Trump. He has lost his advantage. Voters seem frustrated by it. You have some in the base that feel like it's not enough, like they've only done a couple thousand, not, millions already. And at the same time, independents that don't like the chaos on tariffs, they don't like the chaos on Doge, don't like the chaos on immigration. And if you don't believe me, there's been 4 polls that all show almost the same exact thing. 50% of Americans think Garcia should come back. 25 to 30% should think he should remain there. I think that some of this other stuff, it does not look good for Trump at all.
Look, there's a reason that I'm standing here with the White House lawn have these billboards, just I'll twist it again just to show you guys. But I mean, this is the scene all up and down, right? There's a reason. They know that this message resonates, that most Americans are with them when it comes to not just illegal immigration, but especially people who have some sort of gang affiliation. First, on the the issue of that you brought up on children, Marco Rubio put on a masterclass this weekend in addressing this. The bottom line is, it's funny how the press wants it both ways. If you're coming into the country and we take care of the children because we're concerned about whether they're being trafficked or whether it's actually their parent, then it's called family separation. And there's this big boo-ha-ha. If you actually keep them together, then they've got a problem. It's amazing to me how unbelievably ridiculous the media narrative is on this. And then when it comes to due process,
hold on. Before you leave that, I agree with you that Marco Rubio made a strong case, but here's the flaw in the argument. You don't need to send those women out immediately. If the women want to take their kids after a hearing and a judge considers it and they talk to the family members, great. There are parents, other relatives, including, I think in at least one case, a father, who are still in America. Right. And so why rush them out of the country?
Well, no. The person can be rushed out because they broke the law. The bottom line is,
Sean, there's 20 million people here who broke the law. Right. These women have minor children who are American citizens. So why rush them out with the kids? If in the end the mothers wants to take the kids and the judge decides that's the best thing for the kids, great. But those two mothers did not need to be on the next plane out of town. They could have been detained. It could be made clear to them, you're going to be deported. You came here illegally, but we need to talk to other family members. So Marco Rubio didn't take that into account. Why rush them? Why not just give them 3 days and let's talk to the other family members, including the dads, and find out what's best for the kids?
I think that's a valid question. I don't know what their process is with having people removed. Maybe it's a signal to deter future people from doing that or forcing self-deportation. I don't know. But the bottom line is, there's also this issue of due process. There's three categories of people. There's U.S. citizens, where due process is clearly enshrined in our Constitution. There are people who are here legally. That means through a green card, a visa of some sort. Those people are entitled to due process. I think there is a question about people who enter the country illegally and a court says to be deported. That's not, to me, that is due process. You broke the law. I think that's part of what is going to get adjudicated going forward. But not everybody, when you break into the country and you illegally enter it, there's a question, I think an open question legally about what rights you're entitled to.
Yeah. Although they're changing the practice, which they're welcome to do, but they are changing the practice. Dan.
Can you just say it? It's turning negative for him like everything else. I mean, Sean, it fires up the base. You are absolutely right about that. The base loves this. This is red meat on steroids. But the 10% independents are turning 2-1 against almost all this.
All right, real quick on you. I want to talk about the Democrats and how they're fighting back here, but one other topic real quick, which is Ukraine. The president last night continued the weekend trend from the administration being more favorable towards Zelensky, saying Zelensky's got the message. It's Putin who's in the way, standing in the way of a deal now. And this morning, the Russians put out a statement from the foreign ministry, basically rejecting the U.S. plan. So, Sean, what happens next? Where are we next? Is the ball in Putin's court? Who's got the action now on this peace plan?
So I think the Russians have really overplayed their hand and underestimated Trump. He may have given them a lot of leeway to get a deal, but I think both Sergei Lavrov, who made that statement, and Putin have really taken this too far. And now I think Trump's clearly, after that meeting with Zelensky in St. Peter's, is tired of trying to do things to get a deal, and is going to come down a lot stronger, in my opinion, on the Ukrainian side.
Dan.
Yeah, what's he going to do to Putin? Said it for months. That's the ball game now. Putin's clearly thumbed his nose at him. Are you going to stand up and make Putin pay a price? And I don't want to hear about, more sanctions.
But
why not do anything? Because he's just going to go to the Chinese and everyone else and deal with them. So the only way, all three of us know.
But Dan, what's the solution?
Okay? I'm going to say it again. Are you willing to continue to arm the Ukrainians?
No, he's not. And the American people are not.
Right.
I don't know about that now.
They're not, Dan. They're not.
No.
Okay.
So, by the way,
all right. So then hold on. Are the American people willing to completely walk away?
Don't know, but they're not willing to. They're not willing to.
Well,
they're not willing to fund.
'cause that's-
They're not willing to fund an unwinnable war. They're just not.
Actually, Mark, that's not true. It's unwinnable. It is winnable.
Okay, wait. I love how it's winnable now.
There's no
4
indication
years.
it's winnable. There's no indication it's winnable, Dan. None.
Yeah.
Winnable is that he can't take the rest of Ukraine, because that's what you all said is the bottom line.
No, the killing
That's the
has to stop. No.
What?
The bottom line
Well,
is.
what does the killing have to stop if one side won't stop? Like, you guys talk about it like crime has to stop, but you have murderers walking around, i.e. Putin.
All right, we're gonna talk about this all week. We're gonna move on.
Real quick, one thing I just want to say, because I think context misses, which is number one, remember, Crimea was taken under Obama. The war started under Biden. It was 4 years of Trump when nothing happened. It is amazing the number of people who want to tell Trump how to fix something that was somebody else's problem. He keeps cleaning up their messes. And
but he ran to be president, so he can't.
And by the way,
to clean up the mess.
No,
Trump created. I mean, I don't want to hear this.
No.
Half the problems of the world are.
All right, guys. All right. Lots going on with the Democrats to try to organize during the 100 days commemoration to push back. Some good news here, 103B. This is a Fox News poll on the election preference. This is the so-called generic question. Just would you vote for the Democrat or the Republican in your district? Democrats up 49 to 42. Biggest lead they've had, I think, in this poll ever. Go to 103A. There's a tweet about the poll. Democrats' largest lead by Fox News since October 2018. Sorry. So largest since 2018. And of course, that was a very good cycle for the Democrats. Yesterday, 110, please. On the steps of the Capitol, didn't get as much coverage as I thought, but Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries and others did a sit-in on the steps of the Capitol for a long time. 109. Chuck Schumer has a typical Schumer-esque Sunday letter to the conference, to the caucus, laying out how they're going to fight Donald Trump and saying the country's in a crisis because of the first 100 days. And last night in New Hampshire, Governor Pritzker, who is being as aggressive as anyone about the prospect of running for president, gave a fired up and ready to go speech to the Granite State Democratic Party. Here is a bit of that, please.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
I got great coverage in New Hampshire amongst the national political news or coverage for his remarks. So let's start with him, and then we'll get more general. Dan, knowing full disclosure, you have a relative who works for the governor. Where after New Hampshire, where do you rank him as a serious presidential candidate or not?
Look, I said when we said our top three that right now I would put him at the top of the progressive lane because I don't think AOC is going to ultimately run. Look, he's leaning into it. His State of the State address was very similar, full throttle. He compared Trump to Hitler in Munich in 1932. He is unapologetic, and he's going there. He's gearing up to run. So he is right now the leader in the progressive lane, in my opinion.
Sean, do you take him seriously?
Sure, take him seriously. We'll see if the party does. I mean, look, he needed to say what he said last night. Somebody needs to be showing that they're fighting, and so I think he's doing what Democrats want to hear. We'll see how far it takes him.
Okay. Yeah, look, his challenge is going to be Illinois is a mess.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be his Achilles.
You guys.
Yeah. He said in his speech that they're doing a lot of great things in Illinois and the whole country should be doing them. that'll be
Hey,
an
Mark.
interesting thing to watch. Yeah, Sean's going to be on the move. Go ahead.
Just, yeah, I'm going to be on the move. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Dan and I will talk about Democrats while you're gone.
All right.
Dan, in general, the Schumer letter, the sit-in, the poll numbers, how would you appraise where the party is for the first 100 days and prepared for the second?
Look, I think the party is as we end the 100 days, it's in the best shape it's been in the sense that when it started, it was non-existent. Then it was kind of like depressed and shocked. Then it was angry and confused. And now they feel like there's a little bit of wind at their back. I think we are getting good recruits. I think some of these primaries against other members, the party's now kind of the belief this is going to be good to see. You know, people like Jan Schakowsky decided not to run. Like, so, okay, you don't have the stomach for the fight anymore. Let somebody else in. Fundraising is very strong for a lot of candidates. The number of emails that went out over the weekend on Act Blue, the judge, like whatever people on here may think, the base is fired up. Just like when Trump was charged in cases, it fired up the base, his online fundraising surge. So recruitment and money are strong. The leadership got the memo that if you don't do something, you're going to be gone. So I can laugh at, Schumer's letters or sitting on the steps on a Sunday afternoon when everyone's out doing other things, but like, whatever, they are doing something. The last thing we need to do, as what's his name, David Axelrod said this weekend, is we have to come up with an agenda. Right now, we're not really for anything, but we have lots of time between now and November. I think the party feels pretty good about where it is right now.
Yep, I agree. People are feeling better this weekend than I've heard in a long time on the Democratic side. All right. 3 big media sound bites. I'm going to play for you. We could literally do a whole show on each of these topics, but we'll just play them and then we'll talk about it. First is Ashley Parker on Morning Joe this morning talking about the Atlantic. They had 2 interviews with the president. The first, I think, was by phone, maybe. And then the second, they got invited to come sit in the Oval Office. And the White House said, do you want to bring Jeffrey Goldberg? And they said yes. So here's Ashley Parker talking about Michael Scheer, Ashley, and Jeffrey Goldberg, fake news, public enemy #1 for the White House, in the Oval with the president.
Provide us color. What was it like when Jeffrey got into the White House with the president?
So, as you know, Joe, Donald Trump is someone who often is trying to win the minute, the hour, the day, the person directly in front of him. And
Right.
That afternoon, Jeff Goldberg, my boss, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was one of the people directly in front of him. And the president was the version of himself that can be incredibly charismatic and charming. And he was very much oriented, as Jeff, myself, my colleague and co-author Michael Scheer, but Donald Trump was very much oriented towards Jeff Goldberg, trying to win him over, trying to get him to
we can jump out of this. So here's Ashley Parker sounding like Bill Maher saying Donald Trump's so charming. Now, the Atlantic attacked Joe and Mika, my friends, for going to meet with Donald Trump in Florida, but apparently for them, it's all good that they can go hang out with the president and then go on TV and say what a charming and solicitous guy he is. We'll get to that. Here is Scott Pelley last night on 60 Minutes in an unorthodox thing that would only happen in the era of Trump, attacking the owner of CBS for what happened with the resignation of the former executive producer of 60 Minutes.
Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us. But he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it, but in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
All right, finally, here's Alex Thompson. He writes for Axios. He's one of the few reporters who tried to cover the Biden mental acuity decline story. And he's got a book coming out with Jake Tapper in which they say they're going to lay bare the cover-up And Alex Thompson is under pressure because clearly part of the cover-up involved not just Team Biden, but the media. And at the correspondence dinner on Saturday, where he won an award, Alex Thompson, watch the reaction he gets when he says, yes, there was a cover-up, but also the press's role in the cover-up has caused us to lose credibility with the American people. Here's Alex Thompson.
The White House Correspondents Association is as necessary as ever. President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. We bear some responsibility.
Come on, people. Come on.
The media
Come on, people. Come on, people. There you go. Smattering. We call that smattering. 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 Smattering.
I say this because acknowledging errors builds trust, and being defensive about them further erodes it. We should have done better.
Amen, Alex Thompson. And I hope the book contains a lot on what CNN did and Politico did to not cover the story when they should have, when it was apparent to everyone. So, Dan, those are three big stories. You take them in any order you want. Pelley, Parker, and Thompson. What are your thoughts on those sound bites?
Live by honesty. I think it's great. I think Ashley Parker's right. More people should say when Trump is charming, speak the truth. He is. Almost anyone who's interacted with him will say that. People will also talk about, his temper, just like with Bill Clinton. I think with Scott Pelley, it certainly sounds like Sherry Redstone wants this deal because Sherry Redstone wants to get paid. Her family has owned Paramount now for years. She wants to exit. Certainly sounds like they are doing everything they can to kiss the ring of those who are going to approve this. And so, look, if you don't agree with it, resign. Like, that's what you always say. The guy did. It's admirable. He kind of thinks he's taking it for the team. And then I think as far as Alex Thompson goes, good for him. We've all talked about it. More people, and I think it's true of Democrats, anyone running in 2028, you are going to be asked this question. What did you know? When did you know it? And why didn't you say anything? And the best way I think to disarm someone is just admit you screwed up and move on.
Sean?
So the interesting thing about that, but
hello, Sean.
By the way, we are now over in the old executive office building. This is the Indian Treaty Room. If you've ever want to see it, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It's an incredible room. One of my favorite rooms in the White House.
Well, the other one that is an unknown favorite, there's a library here on the other side that is probably one of the coolest, like, old school libraries. Anyway, but so here's the thing about Alex Thompson's comments that I just want to make clear. If the clip you played, he said, "We miss this. I missed fly catches. I missed buses. I've missed a train." They didn't miss it. They ignored it. And for people who spend their lives figuring out what the right word to use is to describe something, think about what he said. We missed this story. They didn't miss it. They covered it up. They ignored it. And that shouldn't be forgotten. And that's the funny thing about this, is that the tepid applause afterwards, because they most of them don't agree, because they actually intentionally didn't make a big deal of the story. And that's why when you actually play the clip and hear the lack of applause from his colleagues, it's because they don't agree with him. This was part of their strategy, is to let this go.
And look, I like the guy, and I admire what he did, because he did as much as almost anyone,
right?
Almost anyone. But to say, as you said, we missed it. No, he should say he should have gone further than he did if he really wants to be a truth teller. Now, again, I'm super curious to see what's in the book and whether the book holds the press accountable. They allowed themselves to be intimidated, and make no mistake, their motive was to try to keep Trump from winning. That was their motive.
I agree with you. I will say this. Of all of the reporters who did nothing, he did the least. Alex Thompson actually reported on it.
No, he did the most. He did the most.
Right, he did the most, yes. But for him to give a shout out to Jake Tapper, who was a leader in the cover-up, is a bit ridiculous. Like, look, these guys are going to profit handsomely off of this, and everyone's going to buy the book. But the bottom line is, they sat around, they were complicit with it. And by the way, for some of these people, they were complicit in promoting some of the other hoaxes on President Trump. during the 4 years prior. So I just the dinner to me, I have a feeling that this year's dinner, and I'll get off my soapbox when I say this, I think this may be the real end of the White House Correspondents' Dinner as we know it. It'll still go on, I'm sure. But like, read that quote in the New York Times that came out. Normally people like scramble to get tickets. They're asking, calling in favors. There is a quote in the New York Times from one publication that said that they reached out to dozens of people to join them at the dinner, and every one of them said no. The dinner is jump the shark. It isn't what it is anymore. There was great events this weekend. Substack put out a great event. Bannon put on a great event. I mean, there's alternatives now that there never have been. There are great opportunities for content creators to be able to go out and enjoy a weekend with each other without feeling like you were bought into that ridiculous organization.
All right. Time for your questions. Again, raise your hand if you'd like to get into the conversation. We'd love to have you. Peace, love, and understanding from Mr. Steve Holder. Steve, welcome in. Tell us, I don't know where you are, breed, name of puppy, and what's on your mind.
We're in southern Utah. This is Dot, the Karn terrorist, and she's a new member to our family, about 7 months old. I got a question for Dan.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that Ukraine could win. Define win.
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about. I think win at this point is Russia does not take any more territory. So they would have to agree to give up what they've lost, which they don't want to do. But I think win is Russia cannot be allowed to take any more territory.
Isn't that what Trump is arguing?
That is what Trump has argued, and Ukraine has accepted, and Putin does not accept, because he will not accept it. He is going to try to take Ukraine.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. John Fram, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, after you unmute, what's on your mind?
Good morning. Hey, I'm from South Carolina, and glad to talk with you guys again. And so here's my fundamental question, and Dan, I want to start with you. Is anybody, and I want to actually start with the book on your right-hand shoulder, the book on Lincoln by David Donald.
Yep.
It's a fascinating read. Highly recommend it to everybody. I think it's the best biography. But David Donald was talking to President Kennedy before he wrote the book. And Kennedy was expressing his frustration when he was asked, who's the greatest president? And Kennedy argued, it depends on what challenges you were taking on, depending on what you knew. And you have to look at things in context. So I think we would all agree that Lincoln was a great president because he kept the Union together and he ended slavery. Kennedy kept the world from destroying itself. So my question to you, in that context of where Kennedy said we do these things not because they're easy, because they're hard, has anybody privately said to you, I wish we would have done good or better, like what the Trump administration is trying to do, by tackling Ukraine, by tackling the Abraham Accords, by tackling fentanyl, by tackling the debt crisis, by tackling the bad trade deals that even Lee Iacocca back in 1985 spoke about and said, this is ridiculous, the things that we're agreeing to. Does anybody privately say to you, we should have done better, and I wish we would have been tackling these things on the Democratic side that have been ignored for 40 years?
So I think it's a great set of questions. And I think within the party, the view is that they did do some big, bold things. They think the clean energy deal that they did, the infrastructure deal, and the CHIPS Act to try to get ahead of the race for AI and super powerful computers were legacy defining. What they argue is they didn't, that stuff is going to take years to play out. I mean, some of the things you hear on tariffs, right? We need time, etc. If you ask the American people, right, they would say that stuff, like, it didn't register, they didn't feel any impact today, and they were frustrated with the condition of their lives today. So I think that what Biden focused on, in the big picture, probably history is going to be pretty cruel judge of. I think with Trump, what he's focusing on, the question is, can he execute on this? Can the tariffs,
but right now they're getting it.
Start reshoring, create greater market access? Does the immigration, roundup actually do anything? And did DOGE actually do anything? I think those are all outstanding questions. If 1, 2, or 3 of those happen, he'll be historic. Truly, he will. And if it doesn't,
okay,
Sean,
I appreciate that.
Sean.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think as long as right now, there's 2 issues at hand. One is I mean, look, I will say this, as I've said before, with respect to like Doge and everything else, we have sat around and watched people kick the can down the road for decades on efforts to make government efficient. So I think anything that they can do in this area is welcome, as far as I'm concerned. And I get where we are. You mean in terms of partisanship in this country, but I think there are certain things that I'm shocked more people aren't on board with.
John, thank you. Barbara, you didn't need to raise your hand because I went and found you. If you could unmute, Barbara.
Hey.
There you go. Welcome in, Barbara.
Okay.
Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind, and thank you for listening.
Okay. Well, I am calling from Illinois, actually, J.B. Pritzker's state. Not a big fan. I'm calling from Morton, Illinois, the pumpkin capital of the world. If you eat pumpkin pie, most likely it was canned in my home, in the town in which I live. I'm calling because of J.B. Pritzker calling for unrest concerning Republicans. If he's running, it'll be interesting to see. I don't see how he's going to help bring in red voters, because downstate despises him. He has all but ignored the rural communities. He's brought in green energy, quote unquote, programs, which if you're a neighboring farm to these things, you're not happy. I've been to 15 hours of county hearings in which our county was going to reject the ability to build these different projects. And Pritzker then said, well, we will sue you if you do that. So our county backed down. So that's what's happened to all of our rural counties in Illinois concerning wind energy and things like that. Also, he is after the homeschool and private school groups in Illinois. I used to homeschool, and Illinois was probably the best state in the union for homeschooling. And now he's going to make it, if not the worst, one of the worst. He's cracking down on private school. I think it's so he can have control over curriculum, of course. It's a very liberal state in our public schools. He promotes very liberal education policies, and that's where I'm at today.
Yeah. Okay. Barbara, thank you. I brought in Mike. Thank you for that. I'm going to get Dan and Sean in a minute, but I brought in Michael Graham, who covers politics in New Hampshire, because he sent me a really fascinating note. A lot of people are reading Pritzker's remarks about people not accommodating Republicans as a shot, for instance, at Gavin Newsom, who's brought MAGA people onto his podcast. And Michael covered both the J.D. Pritzker speech and remarks by the congressman from New Hampshire, who's now running for the Senate seat. And it's a contrast in two strands we've seen in the party going back to the Reagan era. When do you accommodate and say you want to work with the other side, which is appealing to a lot of voters? And when do you give red meat to the base? So, Michael, talk about the two experiences you covered, please.
So huge response yesterday, 800 people at this event where they're cheering Pritzker on as he says, we need to mount the barricades. He was actually saying, I'm calling for us to rise up, give the Republicans no peace. And just hours earlier, the local TV station did a conversation with the candidates kind of piece with a roundtable of the public, in which the probably next U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, Democrat Chris Pappas, is saying, I think we've got to find a way to work together. He would not call for the end of the filibuster. He actually said the filibuster is good because it brings us together on Israel and Gaza instead of the Pritzker, free Palestine. It was, I think we've got to look at both sides and they're a good ally. And I'm just going to myself, these two people are in two different parties. And my question for Dan and Sean is, New Hampshire's not, some people call it a swing state. It's not a swing state. It's a federal Democrat state, swing state level state. But Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, these are swing states. Is the way to win a general election really the Pritzker, who, by the way, remember, very extreme on immigration, support sanctuary cities, et cetera, very extreme on biological males and female sports. And he said in his speech yesterday, we've got to stop backing down, stand by our principles, but with a better message. Is that really the way to win in Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, as opposed to the Pappas model, which is, why can't we all just get along?
And Dan, I'll just bridge to you by saying, even in presidential politics, nomination politics, winning the nomination typically goes to the most liberal person who's moderate enough, the voters think, to win a general election. So that's part of why I'm skeptical about Pritzker. But Dan, talk about the debate within the party that Michael's highlighting, please.
I mean, and I completely agree with all of you. I don't think that's the way to win a general election, but you can't win the general without winning the primary. And I think JB has just decided, he looks at Whitmer, he looks at Shapiro and others, and just says, I am not going to be able to compete with them, but I can try to compete because I'm from Illinois as the just, progressive, unapologetic flamethrower. And as you said, and others noted, he got standing ovation after standing ovation with the base. I would imagine if he went to Iowa, which is an even more progressive primary, it's a caucus, but mix, he's going to get a good reception. If you look at the history of these candidates, Howard Dean, Bernie Sanders, they do not ultimately win the nomination, but they have a moment, they peak, and then when they start getting pressed on details, it's like a little bit of a hamada, whether it was Medicaid for all or whatever. So I don't think JB Pritzker will get there. I think Illinois is a mess. I don't think that's going to be a winning message, but he is the first to get out. He is the first to not back down, and he'll get some votes for that.
So look, I think to answer Michael's question, they're running two different races. JB Pritzker is running to be the most liberal person in the party and to catch fire, right? Chris Pappas is running to be the senator from New Hampshire. And I think Chris Pappas's comments, and obviously Michael is, I have spent plenty of time in New Hampshire, but not as extensively as Michael in terms of being there and covering it. But I thought that Pappas's comments were much more in line with New Hampshire's broader electorate, whereas Pritzker clearly was playing to a populist base for a potential early primary. And again, remember, one of the things Mark brought this up weeks ago, we don't know where this primary in New Hampshire is going to be. I mean, I think I know where it's going to be ultimately if the Secretary of State has a say in this. But the bottom line is, I think Pritzker is playing to that extreme left because he knows that's what it takes. He can't get to a general election. This goes back to the previous person's comments. If you don't win the primary, you're not in the general. So you got to do what you can to win it. Pappas, I think, is already trying to position himself as the electable guy, for not just a primary potentially in New Hampshire, but for the general.
All right, and I would just point out that there are a bunch of U.S. senators who look a lot more like Chris Pappas than look like J.B. Pritzker.
Right.
And Senate races are as close to an electoral college race as you're going to get. Now, obviously, there are plenty of Elizabeth Warrens too, but where are they? They're in Massachusetts, Oregon, Hawaii. So.
And by the way, Michael, none of those Senate races that we've talked about, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Michigan, is going to ask for AOC and J.B. Pritzker to come stump on this. They'll ask them to raise money in their states quietly, without telling anybody, and TV trackers go through the back door, but they will ask for Josh Shapiro and others to come and campaign.
No way. In Georgia, it's Ossoff C. AOC and Ossoff C. I'm sure that's how he's going to run.
Here's another Michael, member of our community who knows a ton about presidential politics, about New Hampshire, one of the wisest members of our community, always so happy when he raises his hand. Michael Briggs, who amongst other people has worked with Bernie Sanders. Michael, welcome in. Love to hear your views on all of this.
Hey, Mark, thanks a lot. Appreciate the platform. I was wanted to go back to the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes, sir.
Just for a minute. I last week finished the latest book that's out on the campaign, and I think I wasted my $25. I don't think I learned.
You mean the book, the fight book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing worth knowing. And I hope Alex Thompson does a great book with Jake Tapper. But my question is, how come we have to wait for a book to come out on this? Why isn't some of the White House press corps or the media press corps doing a job now of going after these stories? There's got to be something out there, and I haven't seen any attempt to get it. With one rare exception, Annie Linsky and some of her colleagues at the Wall Street Journal have gotten close to it, but they've not really come up with anything telling to me.
You're talking about the current administration?
I'm talking about
the Biden administration.
I'm talking about the
Biden administration. So I'll go first. First of all, as the less evil reasons, although they're bad, news organizations don't have the staffs they used to, right? They don't have the capacity to do deep dive analytic pieces. And I have to say, the Journal under their new editor at the end of the Biden administration and currently is doing as good a job, I'd say better job than any paper in the country, doing deep dive enterprise investigative pieces to hold powerful interests accountable. But they're an exception. Second is the Biden administration, as we've talked about on this platform before, engaged in thuggish, systematic intimidation of reporters, threatening to cut off their access if they wrote the truth about Hunter Biden or about Joe Biden, and they allowed themselves to be intimidated. That's not attractive, but that's part of the reason. Another reason is they wanted to help Donald Trump lose.
Right.
And I'll tell you, one more reason, and I know this is someone who's written books about campaigns. There's some reporting you can't get in real time because sources won't talk to you in real time. They'll talk to you embargoed or they'll talk to you after the fact. And that's just a reality. If I could have reported during the campaign certain things, I would have, but that's not the basis on which some sources want to talk for campaign books. Michael.
I just have something to add. So I was in New Hampshire, 2019, Biden's first appearance during the 2020 race in New Hampshire. And I walked away with a bunch of reporters who I kind of know, whatever. And my whole takeaway was, oh my God, he's so old. That was my lead. In fact, I started questioning my lead because everyone around me was like, oh, no. So I went back and I read the piece a few months ago and I downplayed the old, but it was in there that this is an issue. And I think the thing you hit on about Trump is the key one. It was not, I'm going to hide it or it's a secrecy or everything. It was, we've got to help Trump. And so you can't be mean. That was the whole message. Don't be mean to this guy, particularly in a state where they know Bernie Sanders tends to win. And remember, Biden came in 5th in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's trying to warn everybody, don't look at this guy. And so they did not want to feed anything other than Biden's the moderate who can win. So that was my
And I think the issue now is that and I've talked to a few Democrats about this. They don't see an upside, members of Congress, governors, former elected officials, of relitigating and picking at this scab. Right. Everybody, I knew elected officials who had told me stories in 2021 and 2022 of meetings and phone calls, like last week, so to speak, with Joe Biden, where they experienced an oh my God moment. Like he forgot what he was saying. He just kind of lost it, shut down in meetings. I heard it as a lobbyist, but it was always like, hey, don't repeat this in public. And now it's like, why do I want to go back and kick the old man when everybody knows it? But I think the problem is the public is going to demand that if you're going to lead us, we need to trust that, and you're just going to have to say, I made a mistake. I think.
Sean.
Yeah, look, I don't want to belabor it. I think you can both make some excellent points. But I think the bottom line is what is disgusting to me more than anything is watching these guys now profit from this. They were part of the problem. And I mean, I get it, some sources, but it wasn't just the attitude. I mean, for someone like Jake, who literally dismissed people on air for bringing up cognitive and physical issues, to me, to turn around and act like you are now the guidepost of all of this and you're going to make a ton of money off of it is ridiculous. For what it's worth, by the way, I had Amy and John on. I'm intrigued. As a political book junkie, I actually thought they did a good job. I agree that, and I asked them this on my show, why didn't you guys write this in real time? And they gave versions of answers that we have just delineated. But anyway, I sort of find it funny that these same people now want to make money off of this. Who've never had a problem of reporting in real time some specious stuff about Donald Trump. Anyway, it's just another.
We'll see if they make money. We'll see.
I think they probably got a decent advance.
They did get a big advance. They got a very big advance. But let's see if they make any more money. Michael Briggs, anything else you want to say or ask in follow up?
Nope. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Love having you on. Really appreciate it. And Michael Graham, thanks to you as well. All right, Sean, what do you have on tonight?
Well, so tonight I'm actually going to go through. Preview the 100 days, where we are, what the administration is doing, kind of everything that we've done in the last, because it's amazing when you actually stop and think about it. I had some assist, I will admit, from some of my former colleagues here, but it is pretty breathtaking, the depth and breadth of everything that has happened in the last 100 days. And then obviously we're going to have a lot of great content with some of the cabinet officials.
Are you there all week? Are you going to be in a different room every day?
I can be.
It's like Clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Caroline does these 8:30 a.m. briefings, maybe.
Yeah. The 8:30 a.m. briefing, very popular. Okay. Tonight, 5:00 Eastern time on Meghan McCain's Happy Hour. Meghan has, as her guest, Mo Kelly, and they're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, including a huge weekend in sports. Lots of controversies involving everything on and off the field. My personal favorite is the Bill Belichick interview that was babysat by his girlfriend. So Megan and Mo Kelly at 5 tonight. Then at 6, I'll be on with Two-Way Tonight. We'll wrap up all the day's news, including more on their first 100 days push. Reminder, coming the end of this week, the People's Poll. I've already gotten some submissions here during the program, which is great. This is new. This is different. It's very much in keeping with the openness of Two-Way, having our community be involved. We want everybody who wants to feel invested in this poll. 1,000-person national poll of registered voters done by our friends at WIC, David Burrell. If you want to submit a question, and it should not be a super complicated one, you can also submit a topic. And the folks at WIC will write the question. So you say, I really want a question on Bobby Kennedy and Maha, or I really want a question on measles, or it doesn't have to just be politics. Say, I really want a question on Bill Belichick. Or you can write the question yourself. Just write your ideas, send them to tpp@twoway.tv. The idea is to have a poll that you all can contribute to, you can be a voice in, and also that it's transparent so you understand. Because one of the things we talked about here is you've got Trump supporters saying all these national polls are biased against the president and that his approval rating isn't really down very much. That's just not true. And because they're private polls that say the same thing. So we're trying to restore people's understanding of how polls work. And so you all can feel invested and that this can be a poll that you can be confident in and proud of. So again, if you want to submit a question today, in the next couple of hours, I was wrong about the deadline. You have till noon Eastern. So you've got 2 more hours till noon Eastern. If you got an idea for a question, tpp@twoway.tv. You're welcome to submit one. We'd love to have you be part of it. Also, a reminder, if you'd like to sponsor this program or Megan's program or any other Two-Way program, and there are more coming, you can do that. Send us an email at sponsors@twoway.tv. Tell us who you are. We can tell you how our sponsorships work. And our sponsorships are different. Not only are we talking about a very engaged community of folks who believe in what we do here, but we're also talking about the prospect of having 2 ways for your current stakeholders or to help you find new stakeholders, part of your business, whatever business you're in. So if you want to be in a conversation with us about what it means to have a sponsorship like no other with Two-Way, send us an email at sponsors@twoway.tv. And then finally, we're in the midst of our Series A round. If you want to invest in this company, if you believe in what we're doing, we think it's nothing less than revolutionizing media by turning one-way content into two-way conversations like no other. It is still time to invest. Send us an email at invest@twoway.tv. Give us a range of how much you think you might want to invest pending looking at our deck and other investment materials, but we want to make sure you're the right kind of investor for what we're doing. Again, if you're interested in being in our Series A round, send us an email at invest@twoway.tv. All right. I think those are all my announcements. Sean, tell us a little bit about the Indian Treaty Room, why you're there. Are you just using that as a studio or you got something going on or what?
Kind of, well, Elon's down the hall, so I decided I needed a little area to stake out, and they said the Indian Treaty Room is free. So, no, I'm here in advance. I mean, it's an unbelievably ornate, beautiful room. I was actually promoted in the Navy to lieutenant commander in this room, by the way. Just a little fun fact during the Bush administration. So we're in the old executive office building. These are, it's funny, West Wing, very small, cramped quarters. Over here, it's much more ornate. It's funny, little history for you. The architect of this beautiful building actually, I think, ended up committing suicide because it was such an eyesore at the time that people thought, and it's a shame because it is actually beautiful in so many ways, the decor, the finishings. And so anyway, I'm here to preview the 100 days with a lot of the administration officials.
And give us one more spin around the room.
I tell you what, man, the last 2 weeks I've been home. You guys are Florida and DC, and I got to hit the road.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in Manhattan, but not as much as what's going on there with Sean. That's a great room. I think
beautiful.
is that where the NAFTA war room was? I think it might have been set up in
Might
there.
have been. Or
Might have been.
Actually the Secretary of War's office, which is directly that way. Is also similar in size and use. So I think that might have been, I don't know, one of them. But this one actually, the windows here, I'll walk you guys over real quick. The windows face the West Wing. So it's actually, if you're, trying to focus on getting close to the White House, there's your view, by the way.
Yeah. It's a great room. It's a great balcony.
Those balconies
by
are
the
great.
way, so 2 things to point out to folks. I don't know that you can see this right now, but straight down ahead, there's a series of seats. That is where these people from Philadelphia will come a little later today to celebrate that ridiculous win that the Eagles had. But anyway, so there's a whole bunch of seats there. And then actually at the top of the White House, I don't think you can see that, but you've got a bunch of agents standing up top, which is always sort of a nice little reminder of.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So again, thanks to Sean for the tour. Thanks you all for watching. Again, great poll questions coming in. So keep them coming. And we'll be back in 23 hours for this program. Sean and I will see you at 6. Megan will see you at 5. And again, keep the poll questions coming till noon if you've got some for this first.
By the way, would it be inappropriate to do like a 3-tier, like Sean, Mark, Dan poll? I mean, get our fave on faves.
Who's fave on favor? Just who's the glue that holds the morning meeting together? A, Sean, B, Dan, C, Mark, D,
other.
None of the above.
That's right. That's right.
Probably the professor. Thank you all for watching.
Or Professor Kenny.
Yeah, we'll see you in 23 hours. Have a great day.
Take care.
Always take the other.
Exactly.